Recording. So welcome everybody to this is the X plus Y Factor 2021. We had a few of these episodes in 2020 and I can't remember what number we got up to, but this is the first episode we're doing in this admission cycle. So my name is Paul Levy. I am the Director of Undergraduate Admissions in the Maths and Stats Department at Lancaster. And we're going to be talking about employability and careers today. I've got three guests with me. David Pauksztello and Clement Lee are responsible for employability and careers in the department. And I've got Lukas Zierahn here, who's a former student who did an undergraduate research internship a couple of years ago. So David and Clement, would you like to just say a little bit about yourselves? David first.
So hi, I'm David. I'm a pure mathematician in the Department of Maths and Stats. And I've been working in Lancaster for 3.5 years now. And I'm one of the two careers tutors in the department, the other being Clement.
Hi, I'm Clement. I'm also in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics, and I'm a statistician. And I've been here for 2 years.
Okay, Lukas, do you want to just say who you are and where you're studying?
Yeah, so I did my undergraduate in pure maths at Lancaster, and I did as Paul said, the summer internship, which was a lot of fun to me. And now I'm doing my master's degree in data science and machine learning at UCL.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about what employability activities take place within the department. So the kinds of things that David and Clement kind of organise and what they do. I think we talked about this a little bit just before we started, and one of the main things that you do, David, is you've got a sequence of events, sort of a fairly well-established program of sort of careers workshops and so on for current students. Do you want to say just a bit about what they are, what year of students you're targeting them at, and how that fits into the overall sort of sequence of their degree?
Yeah, I can do, Paul. So the first is, about halfway through your first term in Lancaster, in your first year, you'll have a careers talk where Clement and I will introduce ourselves and say a little bit about what we do, and you'll get an introduction from the career service and some signposting to online resources to help you frame your career planning to try and figure out what kind of roles you might be interested in. After that, in your second year, in collaboration with the career service, we run a series of workshops. So these are designed by the career service on how to write CVs, cover letters, how employers shortlist, and how to prepare for interviews, particularly nowadays, video interviews. Quite often nowadays, you have to record a video of yourself and upload it in the selection process. So the career service run a set of workshops like this, and we invite the Institute for Mathematics and its applications to come and give an overview of the broad career landscape, which we might get onto later. In the third year, we run a set of specialist careers talks, sort of giving an overview of different areas that people might be interested in. So some usual suspects like financial services and maths education, but some other and further study options, but then some things you might not have thought about, for example, careers in the civil service, for example, and engineering. And I'll pass over to Clement, who will say something about data science in a bit. Alongside, do you want to go ahead, Clement?
So there are also opportunities in statistics and data science. So this is both in terms of job opportunities, and also there are also career talks in these two areas. So sometimes we'll get these opportunities from alumni or companies which are like working with different departments in the university, and we'll usually be passing these on to the students.
Okay, so some of these are internships and some of them are jobs, right? So I guess you have a mixture of both. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about a little bit today was the kind of different internship options, right? I mean, Lukas is here as somebody who's done a kind of quite an interesting internship, which is a research internship. I did want to ask, however, I mean, it's just occurred to me, so I'm not sure how this is going to go, but Lukas, as a recent student, you must have attended some of these workshops and you've chosen the sort of data science route. Is that something that you go to one of these talks where they discuss the kind of further study options and data science and so on?
Yeah, for me personally, I was quite certain I wanted to do further studies in data science and machine learning as well. I have a background in programming as well, so for me it was quite natural to choose this route and then combine mathematics and programming. So actually, for me, the career talks, I mean, I already knew what I wanted to do. So yeah, but as I said them, I think they were really helpful. What I think personally was particularly helpful at Lancaster for my career options were the CV help. So being able to go to the base and then talk to people through your CV and then get your feedback, I think that helped me tremendously.
Yeah, so it's one of the things the department sort of links up a lot with the university career service and so on, doesn't it? But I mean, Lukas, I've been an academic tutor for a number of years, and so one of the things that we do as academic tutors is try to sort of prompt students to think about what kind of careers they might want to do. Lukas is a sort of dream version of a student who says, "This is what I want to do. I'm definitely sure that I want to go into data science." But of course, one of the things about the careers talks is also to stimulate people's thinking around what they might want to do and maybe to discuss kind of alternative possibilities if you're not sure. So I'll bring David back in. I think you wanted to say something else, yeah?
Yeah, so the career service are quite good at looking over or any of your application documents. So they will look at your cover letters, they will look at your CVs, and they'll help you tailor this to specific employers, and it's very easy to book one-on-one appointments, and there's a dedicated rep from a career service for the maths and stats department, so someone who has a lot of experience of dealing specifically with maths and stats students, so with some specialist knowledge here. You wanted to talk about internships, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you've discussed the main areas which I think we like to. It's not just oversimplify everything, because obviously people with master's degrees have a wide variety of different career options, and talked about the civil service, and one of the companies that we like to mention, which was on the last set of graduate destinations that we had data for, is Mars. So you can go into quite interesting kind of areas with a maths and stats degree. It's not all 1, 2, 3, but as a broad kind of summary, some big proportions of maths graduates in general, but maths graduates at Lancaster as well, go into one of these 3 areas, which is either something financial, actuarial, something where you're obviously using the mathematical skills in relation to something that's got to do with finance. Secondly is teaching, and it's not a majority, but it's a large kind of group of students that are interested in going into teaching every year. And third, one of the things that, just to come back to what Clement said, is the sort of statistics / research kind of data science kind of further study and possible career options. And that also links in with some of the things that we said around the civil service, because I know that some of our graduates have gone from quite advanced degrees into the civil service. So you really need, especially the statistical skills in some of these areas, don't you? So I think I just wanted to summarize the kind of the career kind of overview, but there are many other options, but those are kind of 3 big areas that you might think of people going into with master's degrees. Would you say that's a fair summary, David?
I think that is a fair summary. Yeah. It's quite broad. These 3 areas are also quite broad. Yeah. I mean, the data science and the research stuff, there are people who go into data analytics working for example, we have one graduate working for British Airways. We have a whole host of other graduates working in medical statistics. So this is quite a broad range.
Yeah, so I guess what you're signposting in the kind of things that you're organising, you're signposting to the career service. You're saying here are places you can go and find out about jobs. There's also the practical skills in terms of employability. You talked about CV writing and so on. It's really, just an opportunity for students to come and get help with that. Now, the internships are also an opportunity to kind of try something out, aren't they? I don't know if you wanted to say something about that, David or Clement.
David. Should I go? So on the internships, there are sort of, I guess, 3 different approaches to internships. So the first one, Lukas can say a little bit more about his experience, are the undergraduate research internships, which typically take place in the summer of your penultimate year. So either between the second and third on the BSc program, or the third and fourth on the master's program, the integrated master's program. You can also go independently and get internships in the summer, and here you get support from the Careers Service for how to tailor your CV, and the Careers Service maintains a dedicated webpage with internship opportunities, and we pass on any specific internship opportunities we become aware of, which are specifically targeting people with maths and stats skills for this. And then there's also internships in the financial sector. So, for example, in the management school, there's a financial careers coach who has worked previously in investment banking and is now trying to sort of coach people into investment banking roles and train them how the very competitive application process works. And he's managed to get a couple of maths and stats students some quite lucrative summer internship placements. So, for example, one last year at Deutsche Bank. So there's various different internship opportunities available for maths and stats students. I should also add to this that the university takes widening participation very seriously, and in particular the summer research internships. These are underwritten by widening participation funding, so that if you qualify for widening participation funding, then you have a higher chance of successfully obtaining one of these, because we will fund an unsuccessful proposal from someone from a WP background.
Yeah, so the research internships are some of them are funded by external bodies, and then you're saying that so you have to apply for that money, but if you don't get it, then based on this, and the university has a widening participation policy which sort of would specify who qualifies, but I haven't seen the latest version of it, but I think it's on the website somewhere. But yeah, so you're trying to basically increase those opportunities for students who might otherwise not have so many opportunities. So this is a good time to bring Lukas in. Do you want to say a bit about the project that you did? I think it was funded by, is it the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council? Is that the one, EPSRC? Have I got that right? Is that, I mean, David, perhaps you know, the summer research internships, are they?
Yeah, there are 2 types. There's the London Mathematical Society ones, which focus on pure mathematics. Actually, that's not strictly true, because we had 2 last year which were focused on statistics. So that was all areas of mathematics, I should say, from this. And the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council, which is the main UK body for funding research in science. Right. And I think that's the one that Lukas was funded under this scheme.
Okay. So we have to mention the funder, because the funder wants to get the good publicity of funding it. So, but okay, do you want to say a bit about your experience, Lukas, in doing that?
Yeah, so I worked with a local lecturer, Azadeh Khaligi, for 10 weeks during the summer. And I worked with her before and after the internship, which was really like a complete package for me, being able to be included in the whole process of actually scientific work, which was something I wasn't really exposed to before that, right? Because I was an undergrad, and as an undergrad, professors usually are a little bit of like the distant figure that teaches you something, but that that you can't necessarily help in anything, because they're way too advanced and way too deep into the subject matter for you to help them, right? But that's not necessarily the case. I think that's a big misconception a lot of undergrads have. And then during the research internship, I was personally able to really understand what it feels like to do research, like to do a PhD perhaps, or be a professor yourself. at one day. Like it really, I think, put the point across for me how that feels like. And yeah, I had a lot of fun as well doing it, and really like being listened to and being heard and being like treated eye to eye, even as a student. I think that was a really valuable experience for me.
So did you do it in 2020? Or
yes, last year.
Yeah, last year. So I mean, I guess that you were maybe planning to do the fourth year, but you decided to apply for a separate data science master's. So this doesn't constrain you. Going back to what David said about going into the year before your final year, you can then change your mind and decide, actually, I want to go and do a separate master's. So this sort of helped you to decide that, didn't it, Lukas?
Yeah. So actually, I was just on a bachelor's program. I did not do an integrated master's. But yeah, it really helped me to understand that I like doing research and that I want to continue in the field.
What was your project? Can you summarize it for?
So the project was to write some programming code. Specifically, the professor I worked with had devised an algorithm for change point estimation. So if you like a long sequence of numbers and somewhere the distribution changes and you're interested in the points where the distribution changes. And then I implemented that in Golang, and we distributed it as both a Python and R package. And now it's also available on CRAN. So you can download it and use it yourself if you're interested. It's called R-Chest, and you can play around with it. That's basically the result of the internship.
Right, so it's actually produced something. I mean, this is like produced something that maybe other people are actually using.
Yeah, but it's not only like I was forced to code her algorithm and then I was supposed to do that and nothing else. As I said, I was really treated eye to eye, and I had my own ideas and thoughts about how to approach a project maybe, and I was really able to try play around and try my own things and see if they work or not work well at all. And now we actually continue working together and might even be able to do some more work in the same direction based on some ideas we had together during the internship, which I think is really amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it's quite. I mean, it's one of the things that we sort of try to develop is those opportunities for where you can really get to grips with something at that stage, but it's quite difficult because there's a lot of maths and stats to learn. So to actually get to the point where you can study an original question is quite. There aren't that many opportunities, so I think it's been very well chosen by us today. Okay, so that's one type of internship. You've got the internships, summer research internships, and a certain number of students do those each year. You do have internships with outside companies, and in fact, many students will get internships that we don't know about, right? I mean, they'll just apply separately and get one. In the other Holder events, we talked about the placement degree option. Only a minority of students will have applied for a placement degree, but that's one thing where you do a full year internship, right? So it's another way where you can get, get this kind of employability, get this experience of working in a workplace. And I think, David, you said that you're not very strongly involved in that because that's sort of centrally coordinated. Is that right?
Yeah, this is centrally coordinated and is run by a dedicated team who have developed several years of expertise on this now. And there's been a recent change to the system, so you don't have to start on the placement program in order to do a placement. Anytime before the end of your second year, you can transfer onto it, so you can change your mind and do a placement decide to do a placement at any point before the end of your second year.
Okay, right. So that's to do with, I think that's to do with the employability modules that you have to do or something, is it? Yeah. So,
yeah.
Or that you might not have to do. Okay, right. Now, one other sort of type of a kind of internship, I guess, that we should talk about a little bit is to do with teaching. The department has a module in mathematics education, which is a theoretical module, which you can study in your third year. And then there's a subsequent module, which is a placement module, which is not exactly an internship because it's a teaching placement. And so that's also something that you're not particularly involved with, David, because there's a separate kind of convener of that particular module. But this is something I've been involved with in the past. So it's another type of kind of option for pursuing some, working experience in if you're particularly interested in.
I could also I can also add to this that we have contacts with a local teacher training partnership in Lancaster, and they get in touch with us every summer and to offer short, 4 or 5 week internships in local schools as well. So it's not just the employability, the mass education modules as well. There are other opportunities too.
So is that through the department or the Students' Union?
That's through. They contact directly the department.
Right. Okay.
And it's the local schools, the local Lancaster teacher training partnership that runs this.
Yeah. So there's lots of experiences for teaching. I think lots of opportunities for that, because schools are quite often looking for people to help out with the maths side of teaching, aren't they? Okay, so I think that's a kind of a good broad summary, and I don't know if there's anything else you want to add about any of that. No.
I've got something to say about like the further studies, if this is a good opportunity. So I think Lukas mentioned like doing an internship and trying research in data science, and you guys have mentioned a little bit about research and like going into data science, and a lot of times like these companies might require you to have like a master's degree, and we've actually got like 2 master's degree by the department. So one of them is the master's MSc in statistics. So this is purely within this department of maths and stats, and they are like the modules are being taught by like the top statisticians in the field, and then there's this master's in data science. So this is being jointly offered by our department and also the School of Computing and Communications. So so these are the masters that's may be like a springboard for further opportunities, and also like if you're thinking about like doing further studies, this might be a good good opportunity to see like if you do think that's a good choice for you, and also in the 3rd year career stock that David has mentioned, we have actually got one of these stocks for these further studies options. So you get to hear from people both doing the masters and also lecturers in the department talking about these options, to give you a better idea on these further study options.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good. Thanks for reminding me and for laying that out. One of the good things about the degree system in Lancaster is it's very easy to switch. If you start off on an MSci integrated master's degree, which is a 4-year degree, you might do mathematics and statistics or just a straight mathematics degree. It's very easy to switch to a bachelor's and do a separate master's degree instead. And the data science and statistics MSCs are quite popular options for our bachelor's graduates. And there is, I suppose we should also mention the Story, which is a very competitive program, which is integrated 1 year plus 3 years, where you do 1 year of a master's plus a 3-year PhD. And I think it's maybe 8 to 10 students are accepted on that each year. So it's quite competitive and fully funded, but the data science and statistics are probably larger numbers of our graduates do those two. So, to go from maths to data science is a natural. You don't necessarily have to have a background in computing per se. If you've done the degree in Lancaster, then you will have some experience of using RStudio and the computational background that you need, the kind of things that Lukas was talking about in his internship, where you're using your existing programming skills, right? So those are definitely kind of options that quite a lot of our graduates pursue, and medical statistics, data science. Some students apply in sort of social statistics. We've had some graduates going to study criminology and so on. all of these areas are really kind of applying this high statistical knowledge. So it's one of the things I think Lancaster is quite good for. It's giving you those opportunities to actually take your career in a really interesting direction. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's a good summary and a good place to finish. Thank you very much, David, Clement, and Lukas. And I'll see you around at some point. Okay, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.